Hi. Wow. Oh, man. I have missed talking to you guys. It's been a couple of weeks since we've had an episode, and I really wanted to be committed to posting content and talking to you and as close to real time as I could or as I can. And as a result of that, I wanted to take some time for myself to just kind of process some changes and some things that have happened with my health so that I could be in a space to be authentic and share it with you all. I felt like if I had filler episodes or things posted, that then we would be conversing on when I wasn't really in a space to even be talking to anyone. It just didn't really feel genuine to me. So just kind of taking some time, and I wanted to be able to have this conversation with you all and get through it without crying. So fingers crossed on that. So let's just get into it. It's interesting because I had in my notes when I really thought and got inspired to start this show that I wanted to talk about living with an incurable disease and how you process when things can't be fixed or when there isn't an answer. And I do still feel like there's a lot that we can discuss with that, and there's some friends that I want to bring on to just kind of give their perspective and their viewpoint on it as well. But unfortunately, I was faced with some news of even more with my disease that is um, unchangeable and that I'm kind of stuck with. So, just to kind of back up, most of you are aware, know that since I guess like early March, I had been struggling with my vision. The symptom is called optic neuritis, which, funny enough, is something that a lot of folks with MS, it was optic neuritis is one of the symptoms that helped lead to them actually getting diagnosed. For me, though, that was not really a symptom that I had ever really experienced. Most of my issues when it comes to MS are with my spinal cord, mobility, being able to walk, a lot of other bodily functions breaking down, but not so much in the vision optic kind of realm of things, which I've always been grateful for. However, early March, I started having double vision, started losing vision in my left eye, kind of going in and out. If I would become very overheated or very fatigued, I would kind of lose the ability to see in both of my eyes, which was really, really scary. And I shared it with my doctor, my neurologist, and she said that at first glance, just with the kind of like, just the physical looking with a light into the eye, that there was some type of shadow or something that she was seeing um, on my eye, and that we needed to get an MRI. And in the meantime, I would be on Solomedrol steroids to try to help with the inflammation, and for me to, again, as we always hear, de-stress, try to rest, and we'll see what kind of comes from it. I had a really traumatic MRI It was a lot of tests that week, a lot of blood work. I had a brain MRI, a cervical spine MRI, as well as an orbital MRI. And so, for those of you that have never had a brain MRI or an MRI at all, it's a very narrow tube that your body kind of slides in, and you are not allowed to move because any type of movement affects the reading of your MRI. So there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of pressure, but you add another layer for your brain where they put a cage over your face to keep your head even more firm and more stable, and to be able to take a better picture of your brain. And so you're in a tube with a cage over your face and you can't move. When it gets to your spine, they even go as far as to ask you not to swallow. And that if you swallow, that will mess up the image that kind of goes to the text. So again, it's just a lot of pressure. You're anxious, you're cold, it's very loud, you're alone. It's a lot. And on top of that, I did not have nurses that were kind. I have very small veins. I have been gaslit into apologizing for my veins and saying that I'm sorry they're small, or I'm sorry they move. Starting off with an apology, which is something I'm really working on. And I hope that you will as well, to not apologize for something like that. There's nothing wrong with your veins. There's nothing wrong with my veins. They require a little bit more time, but they certainly do not require an apology. And these professionals need to know how to do their job. Unfortunately, I wasn't that lucky. There was a lot of digging in my arm, me screaming and requesting them to stop, and they wouldn't. As while I'm trapped in this tube, it was very traumatic. It's something that I'm still trying to get through. And as always, feel free to message me. A lot of you already have, about how we can better advocate for ourselves and how to make sure that we're never in a situation like that. Again, I learned a lot. It was a very heavy price for that lesson, but it was a lesson that I have learned, and I'm grateful to now know and have that knowledge. All of that to say, the MRI was just really hard, and it kind of added to that fear of what is going on in my body. Was I having a relapse? And for those of you that don't know, a relapse means that your disease, your MS, is progressing. It means that your DMT or your medicine is not working, which is terrifying. And it's a long road of even more tests and insurance approvals to get you on a new drug. So to hear that you are having a relapse is scary on so many different levels. And so I was holding this fear of, please don't let this be a relapse. Please don't let this be a new lesion. But I know something's wrong with me, but I don't know what. What could it be? And when I got the results back, I was, it was bittersweet, because I was relieved to hear that I was not in relapse. My Ocrevus was still working. It was still making sure that I had no disease progression. I had no new lesions. Um, my MS was considered stable. However, there was a but. And the but was that I was in the midst of a really, really bad flare up. And the inflammation that was happening to my optic nerve had done so much damage that it is irreparable. And the loss of vision, the percentage loss of vision in my left eye, is something that I now will have to live with for the rest of my life. There's no way to repair or heal those nerves. And this is what it is. This is a lasting change, a lasting disability, a lasting scar that I now have to hold and carry. And it's hard because I've been living with MS for almost 6 years. It'll be 6 years this August. And MS is incurable. I know this. But I think part of just human nature, part of our brains protecting our sanity, our mental health, is that we block it out. I don't know, we don't really receive the information. We hear it, we acknowledge it, but then we kind of just like put it somewhere on a shelf. And it was just a gut punch to be told that this was incurable and that, or irreversible, and that there was no recourse. It broke my heart. I'm just left with so much anger, so much resentment. A lot of my flare up, I was cautioned and reminded that stress was a major culprit in my health and that rest is what was so important. And I am just thinking about all that I carry in a day and all that I am responsible for by my own choice and by things that are not my choice. And to be told to rest or to limit my stress just makes me really angry because my life is the furthest thing from stress-free or restful. Anger at my family and friends for not treating me with better care, for bringing things to me that are stressful, for adding to my stress. How dare they not handle me with and engage with me with more caution, with more grace. And when you're feeling like that, it kind of just it filters into everything that you are dealing with, being short with people, um, not having, as much empathy, not giving grace. And it's made me just really upset with the person that I have become these past few weeks as a result of it. And that adds to my anger. So now there's shame. Now there's self-loathing. And so it's just all of these feelings that add up to just a really negative headspace, and just feeling like all of my efforts, everything that I'm trying to do, nothing is working, nothing is sticking. Everything is so hard. There's just so many obstacles, and it feels so unfair, and it is unfair. I want anyone that's listening to know that it is unfair, what we have to deal with. Um, no one truly, really understands to the level that we need them to. It's so isolating. It's so hard. It's so hard. And I don't want to slip into where I'm staying in this headspace and I don't know how to pull myself out. I go to therapy and I talk about it. I let it all out. But it doesn't get any easier. There's just no reprieve. There's just no break. Nothing is making me feel better because I can't see. I can't see. I mean, I'm grieving. I just feel like I'm grieving all over again. I'm back at August of 2018 when I was first grieving about this change and this loss and this new place in the world that I was in, and I feel like I'm reliving that. I feel like my disease, to know that it hasn't progressed, but this change has happened. It feels like I've stepped into a different arena, a different space that I've never been in before, living with this illness. And it's scary, and I don't know my way through yet. I don't know how to cope with this yet. I just feel like I'm back at the start. So for those of you that are feeling that similarly, that you are kind of back at square one, I just want you to know that I'm there too, and we're going to figure this out some way, and to just allow yourself the space to grieve again. And even if your friends or family, your loved ones don't really get it, don't understand like why you're so down all of a sudden, or why all of these feelings that you're having, that we've gone back in time. It's because, we have it. It's back to trying to, again, chart this new updated kind of path of what does my life look like now? How am I getting through the day? Things that I really thought I had figured out and had a system and had things in place for, are all out the window now. What I started with is with a spoon count of what I could manage in a day. It's not the same because now I can't be on the computer for as long because now the migraine comes so much faster, so much sooner. I can't communicate in the same way. Trying to educate and guide the people in my life to also communicate with me in a different way. Um, just the learning curve of it all while still experiencing such great loss. It's just heavy. It's really, really heavy. And I find myself even more frustrated because, again, I just feel like life is moving and going on around me, and no one sees me. They say they're sorry. They might ask how I'm doing. But the grief is so different and so isolating because it's not out loud. I think about when someone has, a loss, like a death of someone that they love. That is so overt, that is very public. Everyone is aware. The void is there for everyone to see. It's acknowledged often. But with what we're dealing with these invisible losses, these invisible symptoms, the monotony of it, it gets lost. We don't get the same kind of acknowledgement or condolences. It's just something that we have to navigate and carry on our own. So I was listening to the Messy podcast, which I think a lot of you guys are listening to, with Christina Applegate and Jamie Lynn Sigler, and I enjoy it. It's tough, Christina's grieving a lot and is still figuring out how to find that grace through her pain. She's still navigating that, and so it's hard to listen to. I have to be in the right headspace to hear it because it can really bring me down some days, and then other days it's extremely validating, and I'm so appreciative of it. So it's a mixed bag, and I just have to be careful before tuning in. But they end a lot of their episodes with "and so it is," and I really love that because there's no solutions in this podcast. This isn't I don't have any tricks in my bag to share of how to beat MS or win over MS. The purpose of this, the reason why I started this, was just to help us hold on to hope and finding ways to ease this pain and live with this pain and try to be the full, amazing, wonderful people that we are in spite of this pain. And I really hope that this episode, that you can still find that hope and find some sort of ease in me sharing some really sad news. Because every day that we show up and we participate begrudgingly, with an attitude, snapping at people, but not isolating, not locking ourselves away, not shutting down, not disassociating. However you showed up this week, whatever that looked like, I'm so unbelievably proud of you, and I'm proud of us. And so as we go into these days ahead, as always, please give yourself grace, y'all. I'll talk to you soon.